Hello, everybody, and today I'm here to review the 5th episode of Ted, the Sword in the Stone. So this is where John and Ted decide to start an extracurricular activity at school so they can put it on their college application, because Blair tells them that they probably won't go to college if they don't do extra stuff at school. But because John doesn't play any sports, he's not really in any clubs, he decides to sign up for a play with Ted. And this episode's actually really relatable since I myself do theater ever since high school. And I really respect that they're doing the world of theater, but in a crazy Ted way, to put it like that. But John also is one of his co-stars is the same girl, Erin, who was mean to Susan the last season. We did see her the first episode of this season. Not really much of an appearance, but she gets surprisingly more screen time in this episode. But the auditions the duo do are definitely hilarious. John just says something, and then the way Ted does his audition, he pulls out a boombox and starts singing the Gummy Bears theme song. So, Gummy Bears, if you don't know, I think that was a show in the 90s for the Disney Afternoon, whatever it was called back in the day. It was probably on when DuckTales was on, so I guess that was nostalgic for people. But the Ted dancing to the Gummy Bears theme was hilarious. Just seeing him sing the song was perfect. Seth MacFarlane just has a great singing voice, even with the Ted voice. And this scene is now getting memed. People are like green screening the background and putting Ted on there to the Gummy Bears theme song. I thought that was just perfect. This scene will definitely be memed, just like a bunch of other scenes from season 1 for sure. We also see Erin's audition. Hers is pretty good, of course. And of course the duo get a part, but not really. They just get ensemble, which is just background actors, but at least it's something, of course. But they're auditioning, they're practicing lines of Erin, and they actually start to get along with the girl, even though she's not really sure about them. Even Ted apologizes for his little speech towards Erin the last time they spoke, and she just says F you, which I thought was hilarious. But of course, the play is going to be in a couple days. But Johnny's like afraid he's going to mess up because Susan ends up telling the whole town that he's in a play. So John wants to find a solution to this. So he goes to Blair. And of course, she has weed brownies, which is, just something else entirely. And of course, she says it's going to help you feel calm. But of course, it actually doesn't, and it leads to Ted and John getting high, and they end up trying to puke in the bathroom, but it just doesn't work, as they start to have hallucinations of, literally they see a dude who tells them they're going on stage in a few minutes, and of course, his head looks like a fish, and he literally jumps on stage swimming, and of course, that's just hallucination. Well, once John and Ted do go up on stage, they, of course, get stage fright, and they start talking really loudly because of the brownie. And we actually see a scene of Blair when she calls them, and she's, like, super high, and she's, like, talking crazy. It's hilarious. And, of course, once Erin and the one other actor start performing, they notice Ted and John are talking really loudly, saying they're on drugs. And, of course, it causes the audience to be confused, of course. And the play ends up getting messed up, and Erin ends up just yelling at John and Ted, saying F you for screwing everything up. And they were this close to almost going out. And John was just really bummed about it. But the episode just ends with him writing down that he did a play. But the subplot in this episode was even wilder. Maddie and Susan end up working at Dunkin Donuts to get more money to help John with his college. But of course, once Maddie learns that Bill Clinton is coming to the Dunkin' Donuts, he immediately is prepared to want to say the worst things to Bill Clinton, whether you agree with him or not. Even though it's kind of weird seeing Bill Clinton in this episode because of all the stuff that's coming out about him, if you know what I mean. But that's a different story, of course. But the one thing that Seth MacFarlane used in this episode was AI. Apparently, Bill Clinton was AI the entire time in this scene. I don't know how they did that, of course. I don't know if it's deep fake. Honestly, I'm just not a fan of AI at all. I just don't like it. Just don't like how when people post AI stuff, it just looks like, ugh. But honestly, I can't even tell if it's AI or not for Bill Clinton. But of course, Maddie just ends up trying to insult him, saying, "You're not helping our country," or whatever, and just a bunch of political stuff. And Susan ended up getting a job at Dunkin', of course, to help Maddie out. But of course, everything just goes wrong, and one of the other employees there wants to meet Courtney Cox. But of course, he's just bummed that it's Bill Clinton, of course. But I didn't think Bill Clinton was actually going to show up. But of course he did. And we just get a wild scene with him and Scott Grimes. It's crazy, honestly, the way they did this scene. But of course, this is probably the only time we're going to see them working at Dunkin' Donuts. But yeah, this episode was definitely interesting for sure. I love seeing Ted and John try to interact with theater, as I myself do community theater and did theater in high school, so this episode was at home for me, really. So I'll probably give this episode probably an 8 out of 10. It was definitely a solid episode for sure. I think episode 6 is definitely going to be a controversial one, since there's only 3 more left. So be on the lookout for that. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you